believe in, and that's only going to continue if we keep our guns, because state power comes from the end of a gun. Mao Zedong said that. I'm sure the people in the back know about Mao. All right. Sunshine Patriot will in this crisis shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves love and thanks of man and woman. These words were written by Thomas Paine. And though I cannot say I agree with everything Paine believed, as Paine was a believer in the abolition of private property, here his words ring true. The crossroads at which we find ourselves will decide whether America remains the shining city upon a hill, or whether we slip into the forgotten civilizations of history. No more than a pleasant dream in a world where the boot of tyranny remains perpetually on the throat of the free people of this country. Will we remain sunshine patriots, or will we bind our fortunes and our sacred honors, humble ourselves and do the courageous deeds that need doing? To rise to the occasion, suffer and sacrifice for our children's future? Or will we tell them, well now children, it was too hard, just too uncomfortable. We chose not to take the hard road, but left it for your generation, and now we see it's too late. Could you hold your head up and face your children and let them know that group interests or petty squabbling or fear dissuaded us from action? Will we stand defiantly in the face of tyrants that persecute us daily, rogues and criminals that have taken up residence in our halls of justice and in our state houses, every day working to legalize their criminal actions and outlaw the law-abiding citizen and slander the patriots of this country? I say rise up and bend no knee. We are not subjects, we are not slaves, but free men and free women. Let us restore and correct our relationship with our government. Power is derived by the consent of the governed, and we have inalienable rights that are to be upheld. The protection of our natural rights from infringement is the only legitimate job of government. But we have continued to respect the Constitution, and the government has continued to make us outlaws. We have been patient, we have been tolerant and law-abiding, and they have taken our peaceful manners for weakness. We have tried to reason with thieves that would trade and prostitute our natural rights and liberty for security, safety, and the scraps off the table of tyranny. They call it a fight for equality, but how can one be equal to those that require you kneel and lick the palms for the crumbs offered from tyrants? The left, though they may or may not be oblivious to their own ignorance, cannot distinguish natural rights versus privileges and commodities, for they cannot understand that our country was founded on a belief in God and rights endowed to us by that God. So how could they understand the Constitution? Where would our rights come from? Our rights don't come from government. They exist whether they're being infringed upon or not. And nor can you make somebody's labor a right. They are natural. They exist whether they are being recognized or not. Our rights come from God, and how can we expect those on the far left to understand this concept? It's not that they don't believe in God, they despise our belief in God to begin with. To me, the actions which must be taken are clear. So let my words be clear. Join or die. For we will be labeled enemies whether we band together or not. We will either hang together or we will hang separately. Would it not be more pleasant to swing next to a patriot and friend than swing alone? Better to die on our feet than live on our knees. I want to thank everybody for coming out, and God bless America.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Man, I wish we had state reps like that in Ohio. That dude sounds just like us, man. He's saying they're criminals. We know what they're up to. Man, I hope you win. I really do. And before I go any further, I've got to say a big thank you to Penny, Eva, Julie, Lisa, Paige, Ryan, who couldn't be here, all of the organizers for making this happen. I really appreciate it. It doesn't happen without you guys working hard. Can we give them a round of applause? Appreciate it. Mr. Roby, you ready, buddy? All right, Mr. Roby is a huge voice in Wisconsin. He does a lot of moving and shaking out there. Their last event had over 300 Antifa opposition. And out in Wisconsin, man, they really have to face them out there. They really deal with a lot. It's my honor, my pleasure to bring to you guys Mr. Steve Roby.
Hey, thank you guys. We're no different there than we are here. That's why we support here. And like Thomas said, that's their right to be there protesting us. But what they don't understand is our right here, what we're doing in protesting is protecting them.
Yeah.
And when they finally get that, it's going to be a dangerous place for the government. So, let's get started. I'm Steve. I'm state rep for Wisconsin Free Percenters. We're trying to move and shake different things there. We support different people running for office that are like-minded and patriots. So here we go. I made a few notes here because I'm way out there with what I need to be doing. Like every time something happens, the government's always talking about this minority group, that minority group, what they have here. We need to start having them talk about the majority group, and that's us, the law-abiding citizens.
Yeah.
We're the majority now. And I think everybody knows we've always been the majority. We're just not so silent anymore. And we got to quit being silent, because the minute we start being silent again, they're going to keep raping us and raking us across the coals. We need to be put in the conversations for everything they're doing. Every time there's a shooting, they put that bullshit, and I hate to say it, because there's lives taken, and that's a sad event. But they're putting it at our feet. We're not out there doing that. They want to create more laws to prevent us from having stuff. We're not the ones doing this. Enforce the laws that are on the books, because there's plenty of them, and these things will stop. It belongs at the criminal's feet. Individual responsibility. It's not his responsibility or her responsibility because somebody went over and shot up that bank over there. That's not your fault. We need to quit being blamed for everything that happens. We're not blaming the knives. The knives have, I think we looked it up, and it's 3 times the murder rate in the United States knives are used in than guns. I'm like, are you kidding me? And we're not even having a discussion about that. There's no background check for buying big knives or nothing. But there's a law for everything we want to do with a firearm. The bottom line is it's our Second Amendment right, and like Thomas said, it's not from the government. It's the government's job to protect the Constitution. It's our job to make sure they do that. They don't give us those rights. We're supposed to have them, and they're supposed to make sure that we don't lose them. We're not considered in any conversation. Law-abiding citizens and patriots are not considered in any decision-making where our guns, our safety, our protection are concerned anymore. We're not even a platform of the conversation, and we need to change that. We need to go to, you need to be supporting these events, and OGO should be out here supporting this one, and we should be supporting the next one for the OGO. All this, I don't want to associate with it. Our agendas are the same. Whether OGO is going to have the same label as a 3%er, as a patriot, you're all going to be labeled the same thing as far as the government's concerned. So why not increase your numbers, be together, stand as a force? We're not going to keep being the whipping boards. If they pick this battle, it's going to lose. If you think about guns and ammunition, I think the last numbers was 300 million plus registered weapons and gun owners in the United States. And a few people don't have registered ones. They have many registered, many not. So I think that number would probably be double. But if 300 million registered weapons and 3 I think it's 2.5, 3 trillion rounds of ammunition. I think if the guns and the patriots and the weapons were a problem, I think they'd know it. I don't think it'd be any type of concern or chaos. We'd know there was an issue. But what I want to ask you guys, as patriots and gun owners, how long does a mass shooting last? Sir, how long does a mass shooting last? Until the next weapon, firearm, arrives on the scene. Okay, we can wait 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes at the best for a response time, or patriot and legal gun owner can stop that shit on the spot. In El Paso, that shit would have been stopped on the spot. Where we live in Wisconsin, that would have been stopped on the spot. You just started shooting up a Walmart where I live at, every other person in there's got a gun. It would have stopped on the spot. In our law enforcement, you know, I have a spot for law enforcement. I have a lot of family that's in law enforcement. I have 2 brothers and nephew, and they're Tarrant County down in Texas, where all the bullshit's really flying off the handle. And they told me point blank that their department's been told by their head that they do not have to, if it's unconstitutional, they don't have to enforce that. They don't care who that's from the sheriffs and everything down there. I don't know about the city cops, you know, if they have their job or their orders. But the bottom line is, we're all prior military in my family, or we're law enforcement, and you swore to an oath, just like these officers out here swore to that oath. And when it comes time to that, are you going to stand on your oath, or are you going to stand on a paycheck? Because that's what it's coming down to. It's a paycheck or it's an oath, and if it ever gets to that far, your paycheck's not going to keep coming. I guarantee that, because something's going to happen. And if you think that you have the backing and the support of all the other law enforcement people, you're making a mistake, and your bosses are lying to you, because a lot of them don't. We go down to Lejeune, where I was stationed at, and we have a good rapport with Commandant Seniors down there, and he's point blank told that base they will, under no circumstances, fire on a U.S. citizen that has done nothing constitutionally wrong. Don't even second guess yourself, just don't do it. These are leaders in our police communities, our military communities, that kind of get where we're coming from, because we're starting to be a voice. It's all about us, what we're willing to do, what we're willing to sacrifice. You know, I had a decision to make when we got here day before yesterday. I had a big issue happen at my house with the ATF and some different things, and I wasn't there, but I couldn't stop what I was here to do neither, and that was to support something. 2 of our support team got stopped in Illinois coming across, and they were out of line with the way they were bringing their weapons. They're legal weapon owners and stuff, but they didn't follow the rule and got tattooed on it. There were some rules they didn't follow. We get it. You know what I mean? There's rules in place for a reason. Enforce the rules that are there that we have to go by to the criminal. Don't just enforce it to us. Enforce it to the criminal, and that bullshit will stop. You make it tough for us as legal people to do this. Just think if you made it tough for an illegal person to do it. You have to have accountability. You know, and I have to, being a Christian, I have to. It might be a little controversy, but I'm a Christian patriot, and I can't be anywhere where I have a platform and not say, if you support abortion in any shape or form, you're an anti-American and you're not a Christian, and you're damn sure not a patriot. You can look it up any way you want. It's not negotiable. You can have your say, and I agree with your right to speak. That's my personal view. You will not call yourself a Christian patriot around me and not get questioned about that. It's just where I stand. I'm Steve. We're 3%ers. We're here standing up for Ohio. I thank you for the chance to speak. God bless you guys. And please, please, please keep supporting your Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. So are you guys tired of being betrayed and blamed Yeah. Did you guys deserve it, or did you go to work and did you pay your bills and did you take care of your family? You're Americans that you're doing everything you're supposed to, but look around. Shouldn't there be thousands of people here? Let's just talk about the reality. The fact is we're up against our own media. We're up against our own government, elected and appointed. We're up against well-funded, well-resourced organizations. That's why we do not see the numbers here that should be here. But I tell you what, don't fret. Don't fret. And the reason why is because you are the first 20. If you haven't heard me say this before, please pay attention now, okay? In Concord, there were British Royal Marines moving into what they knew was an ammo depot. And on their way, the Minutemen heard that the British were coming. This is where you come from. This is who you are. This is what you are. They all gathered at a tavern. And they heard the British were coming. It was 5 o'clock in the evening. The British weren't there. So some of the guys said, I'm gonna leave. 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock came, no British were there. More people left. 8, 9, 10, 11, midnight, most of the tavern was emptied. It was 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was cold. All of a sudden, they see firelight through the woods, and they see a lot. And there's the British Royal Marines. It took them a while for their boats to get to shore, which was 3 miles away. As they're walking into Concord, there's only about 20 people left at the tavern. One gentleman looks over at his daughter and he says, honey, go get the Minutemen. Go get the Minutemen. He knew when he looked into his child's face that may be the last time that he saw her. She knew too. She looked up at her dad and she knew that bullets were getting ready to fly, that her father may be killed for something that didn't even exist yet, something that had to be fought for. It was just an idea. She got on a quarter horse and took off into the night. Those 20 men in the tavern pulled themselves up at 4 o'clock in the morning to put a barricade on the road. They knew they stood no chance, ladies and gentlemen. They knew they stood no chance. They knew that the likelihood was that they were going to die. And they did. When the British Royal Marines showed up, they put a barricade, they blocked them, they wouldn't let them through. They had some words exchanged, and historically, we still don't know who fired the first shot. But when the shots were fired, our boys, their shots were true, and we were dropping those Royal Marines. We took out a bunch of their numbers, and we held them long enough for the rest of the Minutemen to get there. Amen. They were the first 20. They were the first that understood. They were the first there on the scene. Well, guess what? In a time when your media is against you, your government has betrayed you in large part, and there aren't a whole lot of people to trust, you're the first to stand. You're the first 20. Congratulations. And that's exactly what it's going to take. We're going to have to be that. Mr. Kreitzer, we're going to have Mike up here. He's going to talk to us. Let's give him a warm round of applause.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out here today. First thing, though, let's have a good round of applause for that. You know, that was a great history lesson. You know, that was just outstanding. So, if I get a little bit rattled, please forgive me. You know, this is the first time I'm actually talking in public like this. But, you know, I'm a YouTuber, and talking to a camera and a microphone's a little bit different from talking to these people here. So please forgive me. Also, I'm going to be referring to my notes because the things that I'm going to talk about here today are a little bit too important for my faulty memory to forget. So I tell you, it does me a lot of good to see all you people out here using our First Amendment to defend our Second Amendment rights. You see, the first 2 amendments of the Constitution have a special meaning to me. As I said, I'm a YouTuber, and I run a YouTube channel called Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, where, among other things, I hold a live stream every week called The Right of the People. And I like to say that we use the first to defend the second there. Every week, I talk about Second Amendment related politics, current events, and news, and let people know what the people who work here are trying to do to us. So, as I said, it truly gives me hope to see so many people out here using our rights to peaceably assemble. I mean, look, this is the definition of peaceful assembly here. Look at all these people carrying firearms. Has there been one shot fired today? Not one. So I think it's great that we're using our rights to peaceably assemble, to speak freely, to petition for redress of our grievances, just like the First Amendment says that we can. And it's great. Too many gun owners seem to think that someone else will take care of it. Someone else will keep the gun prohibition lobby from trampling all over our rights. Someone else will call lawmakers. Someone else will write letters, send emails, and sign petitions. Far too many gun owners are complacent and are content to rely on someone else. But not you. Nope. You're out here making sure that your voice is heard. You're out here with us using the first to defend the second. But let me ask you, is that all that we're doing? We're gathered here to let our legislators know about Governor DeWine's proposed safety protection order scheme, which, when you think about it, is nothing more than a red flag law by another name. I mean, if you call a turd a rose, it still stinks, doesn't it? Anyhow, the red flag laws violate more than the Second Amendment, which, as I'm sure all of you know, says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, I'm just a fat loudmouth with a camera and a microphone, but shall not be infringed seems to be pretty clear to me. As I just said, these unconstitutional laws violate more than the Second Amendment, however. For instance, the Fourth Amendment says, if I keep my notes straight, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue except upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the persons or things to be seized. So let me ask you guys some questions. Does it sound reasonable to seize someone's property because another person's afraid that they might do something with it? Does the word of an angry ex-boyfriend, whose motives we don't know, sound like sufficient probable cause to strip a young woman of her means to defend herself? I'll say it again. I'm just a fat loudmouth with a camera and a microphone, but I don't think so. I don't think these laws follow this Fourth Amendment at all. But they violate more than just the Second and the Fourth. To be sure, they go a lot farther than that. For example, the Fifth Amendment says, and this is a long one, so bear with me, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime, unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Now that one covers a lot of ground, to be sure, but I think the part that's most relevant to us is that second to last part, which I'll read again. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Now, I'll hold off a minute on explaining why I think these red flag laws violate the Fifth Amendment's due process clause, because it's related to how they violate the Sixth Amendment, which says, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Again, I'm just a fat loudmouth with a camera and a microphone. But I think these unconstitutional laws violate the due process clause of the Fifth Amendment by ignoring the Sixth Amendment completely. They just completely ignore it. They hold nothing of this. Now let me ask you. Well, first off, you see, these red flag proceedings take place on an ex parte basis, which means one party to the dispute isn't there. Only one party's present. And guess which one that is? Here's a hint. It's not you. You see, if the Sixth Amendment states that you have the right to be informed of the charges against you, the right to be confronted with the witnesses, the right to have witnesses on your behalf, and the right to have counsel, how can there be a hearing that strips you of a constitutionally protected right when you don't even know the hearing is taking place? You don't know that the hearing has taken place until they come knocking on your door in the middle of the night to take your property. Does this sound like due process to you?
Hell no.
So to answer my previous question about whether or not we're out here using the First to defend the Second, that's not all we're doing. No. We're also using the First Amendment to defend the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, and the Sixth Amendment. But like the guys on the infomercials say, oh, wait, there's more. Because the way I see it, we're also using the First Amendment to defend the First Amendment itself. See, a while back, Donald Trump, in response to a rant by Chris Cuomo about being called Fredo, yep, Fredo, Donald tweeted, would Chris Cuomo be given a red flag for his recent rant? Filthy language and a total loss of control. He shouldn't be allowed to have a weapon. He's nuts. Well, is somebody going off on a rant about something that made them mad enough to strip them of constitutionally protected right? Again, that guy with a camera and a microphone, but I don't think so. These red flag laws go further than that, though. So let me rephrase this argument by asking you guys a question. Let's have a show of hands here. How many of us have posted on social media or on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, here out in public? Come and take it. How many have said, I will not comply? How many have said, shall not be infringed? The vast majority of us here. Don't you think that somewhere, maybe even out there in the back, there's somebody who feels threatened by that? Don't you think that there might be somebody who could red flag you for that? Well, I suspect that in some places, some of us speaking here today would get red flagged just because of what we're saying. If you think that's far-fetched, let me ask you another question. Did you guys hear about the former Marine who was red flagged in Oregon for something he said at a rally just like this? According to Fox News, Shane Cofield said at a protest that he would slaughter Antifa members in self-defense if attacked. Recently, he had his 5 weapons confiscated by the FBI, according to reports. He was not charged with any crime. He surrendered his 5 weapons, including his AR-15. But what did he do? What did he actually do? Well, here's what he said. Quote, if Antifa gets to the point where they start killing us, I'm going to kill them next. I'd slaughter them, and I have a detailed plan on how I would wipe out Antifa. Notice that he didn't threaten anyone in particular. All the man did was give a hypothetical response to a hypothetical situation. Remember, if it were an actual credible threat, the man would have been charged. He didn't incite anybody to violence. He did nothing illegal. Nothing. Now, was this the smartest thing in the world to do? Well, maybe, maybe not. But it wasn't illegal. But that doesn't matter. Because these red flag laws are all about what we might do, aren't they? They're not about what we have done. They're about what someone thinks we might do. They take innocent until proven guilty, and they turn it on its ear to guilty until proven innocent. And not only that, they shift the burden of proof from the state where it belongs to the accused where it doesn't. That violates every tenet of jurisprudence that we have in this country. And that's wrong. You don't even have to say or do anything to get red flagged. In Florida, a guy named Jonathan Carpenter was red flagged just because his name matched the bad guys. He got a letter telling him that his carry permit was suspended and that he had to turn in his guns. So he went to the clerk's office and filled out a form to let him know, hey, you've got the wrong guy. Was that good enough? Nope. He had to go to the sheriff's office, show his ID, prove that he wasn't this guy. Was that good enough? Here's a hint. Nope. According to AmmoLand, the sheriff's office supplied Carpenter with a copy of the injunction. In the statement, a plaintiff stated that she rented a room out to Jonathan Edward Carpenter and his girlfriend. She alleged that this Carpenter was a drug dealer who broke her furniture and sold her belongings without her permission. He had a gun, and she feared for her life. She was not sure if the firearm was legal or not. Now, Carpenter never met this woman. Carpenter never lived there. Carpenter has no idea who this woman is. The guy she's talking about is 5'8", and Carpenter's 5'11". The drug dealer's 110 pounds, Carpenter's over 200. Drug dealer's covered in tattoos, Carpenter only has 2. But none of that's good enough because he still had to hand in his guns. He has to wait until a later date when the complainant can testify in court that he's not who they think he is. No matter what documents he showed, his ID, his driver's license, social security cards, bills, proof of residency, nothing. He has to go to court and wait for her to say, no, this isn't the guy. And you know what the best part is? He has to pay for it. The bureaucracy made a mistake, and he's out who knows how much money. Does this sound like due process to you? No. Not a bit. So I guess we're here using the first to defend the first, second, fourth, fifth, and sixth if you think about it. And if you ask me, that's a good thing. You guys get something that the people sitting around at home don't. You understand that sitting around while somebody else fights for your rights is no longer going to cut it. You understand that somebody else isn't going to sign these petitions. Somebody else isn't going to make phone calls. Somebody else isn't going to write letters. Somebody else isn't going to stand here in the middle of their day off and let the people that work here know how we feel about their intentions. But more importantly, you understand something that's far more powerful. You are somebody else. It's up to you. Just as the courts have said that it's up to you to defend yourself, law enforcement has no obligation to defend you. It's up to you to defend your rights because nobody else is going to do it for you. Yeah. So in closing, I'm going to encourage you guys to keep being somebody else. And I'm going to end this the way I end every live stream. In these dangerous times, let the people that work here know what you think about these red flag laws. Send a snail mail, email, carrier pigeon, smoke signal, semaphore, heliograph, telephone, telegraph, bicycle messengers, anything you have to do to let them know what you think, and never, ever, ever give up the fight. I've been asked to let you guys know where you can find me. I'm at on YouTube as Budget Guns and Gear Reviews. You can find me at budgetgunsandgear.com as well.
All right, everybody, let's give them a round of applause. Budget Guns and Gear, we're going to check that out. We'll have Penny come up and do some announcements.